everyone, I'm here with Alice Mong at Asia Society Hong Kong. She's the president and we're very excited for this show. Alice, can you tell me a bit about the Hong Kong art scene?
Well, I think the Hong Kong art scene is really actually quite exciting these days. It has been exciting for quite a few years now, I think, this last decade. And I think people used to say Hong Kong is a cultural desert, which I think it's not right. Hong Kong always had a culture. And I find that right now, for Asia Society Hong Kong, we opened 12 years ago in this space. We've been around since 1990. It has been actually quite dynamic and really exciting because you have new artists coming through, you have young artists now. They can make a living now, I think, more so than they probably could 30, 40 years ago. So to me, this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about this Chantal Mong Gallery and the stuff that we've been able to do this last years.
So I gather this is Wilfredo Lam's first solo exhibition at Asia Society Hong Kong. Can you tell us why the Hong Kong people should not miss this show?
The Wilfredo Lam show has been in the plan actually for ever since we started in Chantal Mong Gallery, ever since Asia Society opened this space in 2012. That year, I met the Lam brothers, Wilfredo Lam's two sons at Art Basel, I believe. And from then on, I've been thinking about, well, it would be great to have Wilfredo Lam in Hong Kong because he's an artist that I've been fascinated with in that he is half Chinese. His father is from southern China. We don't know exactly where. And this show, you're right, that it is his first, it's a first major show of Wilfredo Lam in Hong Kong, in Asia, I believe. And the reason we wanted to bring Wilfredo Lam to Hong Kong, and the reason the show's called Homecoming, is we kind of want to bring him back to the land of his father. He has never been to, in his life, he died in 1982, I think almost 79. He had never been to China. Or this, in Hong Kong even. And my understanding is he wanted to come back. I think when China was opening up in the 70s, there were a time that he would have loved to come back and visit China and it wasn't possible then for, probably political reasons, his passport or whatever. So for me, for Asia Society Hong Kong, it was important to present Wilfredo Lam as an artist. He never claimed that he was a Chinese artist, even though I think during his life, I think one of his nicknames was El Chino when he was in Europe. That's where he kind of became famous. He studied in Havana, ended up in Europe, Spain, and later on he passed away in France. But he never denied his father's roots. I mean, there's a wonderful hand drawing of his father, Lam Yang, that is in the show. So he knows that he is partly Chinese. But for whatever reason, growing up, and his mother is Congolese, Spanish, Cuban ancestry. So he is, his background is fascinating. When I first saw his work, I think about 20 or 30 years ago, I've been very fascinated by diaspora. People like him, whether he is, depending on how he sees himself, but diaspora, because I myself is a diaspora, I'm Chinese American, born in Thailand, grew up in the States, work in Hong Kong. I find that diaspora, they have their feet in different cultures. And the way, if you look at his art, a lot of people say, oh, his stuff is very much like Picasso. Well, Picasso is also diaspora, born in Spain, but made his, he was all over the world. Also did his art in France and different parts of Europe. And then, so there is a similarity. They did meet each other. I think in the 30s, somebody, when he was, Wilfredo arrived in Spain, was introduced to Picasso in the 30s, and they had a friendship for many years. So that's another reason I thought it was very interesting to explore Wilfredo's art from his friendship. I remember seeing his artwork. I was fascinated with his last name, Lam, and so I knew I want to know where that came from. So for me personally, it's been kind of like reintroducing him or introducing him to this part of the world. And I found when I speak to most of my friends in Hong Kong and Asia, unless you're an art connoisseur, most people, 95% of people I ask does not know who he is. And even though his art is collected by MoMA, many of the major museums in Europe. I know a couple of years ago, Pompidou Center, Tate, other major museum in Europe has done retrospective of his work. And so for me, as Asia Society Hong Kong here in Hong Kong, and his roots is Southern China, I thought it would be great to bring him his work back to to Asia, to Hong Kong, so that a new audience, can know this artist. He's quite iconic, actually. One of his major work was acquired by MoMA in 1944, and so he was quite well known in his day. But in Asia, most people didn't know about him. And his Chinese name is Lin Fei Long, right? And even though it's not a name that was given by his fathers, it's a translation of Wu Fei Long. He is an artist that I think has influenced a lot of other artists. And he is embracing, I think there's a museum of Wu Fei Long in Cuba. In fact, I think Latin America has acclaimed him as a Latin American artist. That's when I first heard of him. So I'm not claiming him as an Asian artist or Chinese artist by no means. I mean, to me, he's just an artist, just happened to have Chinese roots. And that's why I'm curious. And if I'm curious, the way I often look at it, if I'm interested in something, I think other people might be interested as well. And sure enough, since we opened the show about 2 weeks ago, the review has been great. We've been getting great audience. And these are by people who don't know him. And now they can see some of his masterpieces that have not been shown on here in Asia. And so I'm really excited that we could introduce him to a new audience, and an audience that will continue to discover him, because he lived to, like I said, till 79. So like Picasso, he was quite prolific. And I know next year there's talk of a Picasso show here in Hong Kong. You're going to see some great work of Picasso himself. But this is a good time to know that, hey, there are other artists like Picasso, and Wu Fei is one of them, and it's worth further exploring.
So out of the great number of paintings in this impressive space, let's take a closer look at one of his works. Hey, what is this?
This one is one of my favorite. I think if you come to see the exhibition, this painting should not be missed. And it's entitled Femme avec Oiseau, and it's translated to be women with bird. And you can see the bird, and you can see the women, and it is really, you can see the Cubist influence and in it. And so that's why I think people wonder about Wilfredo's influence from Picasso or vice versa. And but this painting was painted in 1949, and we're really grateful to the collector who lent this particular work for us for this exhibition. But imagine it was owned by a famous author at one time, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, who won the Nobel Prize for Literature in the 80s. And just imagine, he also enjoyed this painting in his home, and during the time he collected it. And now we get to enjoy it in the Chantal Miller Gallery.